How long has AI been around, and why are these new innovations in GPT or generative pre-trained transformers, why is that so important to AI?
The term AI was actually coined at a 1956 conference in Dartmouth. This was attended by some great researchers, John McCarthy, who coined the term artificial intelligence. Also, there was Marvin Minsky, who was, he started the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab, and Claude Shannon, who is the father of information theory. They all attended, and they thought that they could solve this problem in a few months. Well, here it is a number of years later, and they still haven't solved the problem. If you've used, by the way, the AI tool Claude, that's named after Claude Shannon. So that's
What's that if you...
Claude. Claude is like GPT, except...
Oh, Claude.
Claude, yeah. Not clawing, but Claude. Okay, so anyway, that's where it started. And we've had hype since then of the sort we say. I got to say something about that. Is that okay? Absolutely. I want you to know that Kurzweil wrote 20 years ago, "The singularity is near." It didn't happen in 20 years, so he just wrote another book called "The Singularity is Nearer." It's true. And I think in 20 years, he's saying singularity is right around the corner. I don't believe the singularity as he defined it will ever be achieved. You will notice that all of these people assume that we are computers made out of meat. And this assumption is something I certainly disagree with it. We have a spiritual side, we have an emotional side, we have aspects that are non-algorithmic, things that cannot be encoded, and I hope we could get a chance to get into that. But please recognize the underlying assumption of a lot of these things, which is we are a computer made out of meat. I don't believe we are.
And we'll definitely get into that, Bob. So. Bill, and thank you. Bill, as our mathematician, what is significant about GPT and how they compare to the human brain? Can you just explain what is artificial general intelligence, AGI, and why Lee notes that you don't even need AGI to make colossal impacts on the global economy?
Right. Well, I mean, AGI, that is, the computer can do everything we can do and better. I mean, so that's the aspiration that it's going to put it all together. Now, I think what artificial intelligence without the G, it's doing amazing things. It's solving problems. I'm a pure mathematician, so I'm not a computer scientist. I think the last thing I've coded was in Lisp and Fortran, so that's, if anybody knows, that's a long time ago. But, it's, I think with the large language models, that's the most impressive stuff I've seen, and yet it has some real deficiencies. I think this came up in the last conversation, where it was interesting. It was put in terms of that these systems can't reason, and that's because there's a breakdown in cause and effect. It's really not cause and effect. It's a question. Reasoning is fundamentally about antecedents and consequences. It's the logic that takes you there. Now, you can have causality, and reason can take that. But I mean, just to make the distinction clear, it's a point that C.S. Lewis made actually years ago. Grandfather is sick because he ate some lobster with salmonella. Now that's a cause and effect relationship. But grandfather is sick because he's still up in his room and he's an inveterate riser, and he would, if he wasn't sick, he'd be here. Now that's an antecedent consequent. That's reason. And what was tripping up this large language model was not cause and effect. It was this irrelevant information about 5 kiwis being short and then the system just going haywire on it. So I think we need to be careful about what's actually amiss in these systems, and I think that's the problem. It can't really reason. It's just doing this sort of find the next token that's most likely, do a sampler. I liked what Lloyd Watts said about just really breaking it down. But that's the sort of limitation it deals with. And by putting in enough information, by having enough deep learning, it's producing some really impressive results. I mean, I would say,
Can it do math?
I'm sorry?
Can it do math?
Not well, not well. And I've also asked it, I thought, maybe it can solve some open mathematical problem like the Goldbach conjecture or a Riemann hypothesis. So I'd asked it to prove that for me, and it's bowed out on that. So, but anyway, so it's got these limitations, but still it's incredibly impressive. I mean, there were these Winograd schemas when I'd been following this for years and years, where it's getting the antecedent right. So the police stopped the protesters from protesting because they threatened violence, because they needed to keep the peace. The grammar is parallel, but the they is depending entirely on the semantics, and it's solving these Winograd schemas. And I've thrown it not just with one antecedent, but with 2, 3, and 4, and it's getting it. So it's doing some really amazing stuff, but it's still limited, and it has these weaknesses. I mean, and then just on the point of creativity, I had it. One of my favorite short stories is The Dead in James Joyce's Dubliners. And, I asked it, I gave it the last 5 paragraphs, and I said, please rewrite this in the style of James Joyce, and went ahead and just ruined it, And then I said, by the way, I mean, is James Joyce's Dubliners in the Dead in your memory repository? Yeah, it is. So why did you try doing this? And then it admitted finally that it had done a botch of it. But it's, you can just fool the system. And often I find it's like you can it's like an attorney leading the witness, and you can just get it into this sort of morass where it just confuses itself.
Thanks, Bill.
Which is why Musk and Dojo, most of the computations is for what he calls context, having to solve a specific problem of autonomy in automobiles. He's forced to massively increase the context of the issue. And I think this illustrates the fundamental flaw of this essentially serial intelligence that renders it artificial.
Yeah, I mean, if you narrow the context enough, I mean, these artificial intelligence systems are doing great when you narrow the context, and then it can just have at it and solve the problems. But it's when you start increasing it and then adding irrelevant elements. And I think that, this used to be, the big problem was called the frame problem. I mean, what's within the frame, what's out, and how does the system know what information is relevant and what isn't? And that seems to still be a fundamental problem.
So, Bob, we talked earlier today, and you talked about Band-Aids in terms of how they make these algorithms better. Can you tell us a little bit more about your Band-Aid theory?
Sure. I wrote a paper with a student that showed, and this is obvious if you think about it, if the complexity of a system increases linearly, the ways it can react increases exponentially. So therefore, if you have a complex system, you really have a lot of ways that it can respond. ChatGPT and the large language models have billions of parameters that it can tune. It's incredibly complex.
Trillions, yeah.
Trillions,
well, okay, maybe trillions.
They're up to 1 trillion.
I haven't kept up, obviously. But yeah, all of these things, and that means it's incredibly complex. That's the reason you see all of these hallucinations. I hate the word hallucinations because it anthropomorphizes the neural network and kind of assumes it's human, and I don't like that. So it makes mistakes because it was trained that way. That's exactly the reason it responds that way. So indeed, what has happened if you followed ChatGPT and some of these large language models, that there's a bunch of ways that it can go wrong. And what they've done is they place Band-Aids on these ways of doing things over the last year in order to address this. And you're the guinea pig. You're the one that finds out what is wrong with the ChatGPT, what is wrong with the response, and if you respond or it gets into some sort of media, that people go and look at it. One of the latest ones I saw, and you should try this with ChatGPT, the GPT-O, is to say, draw a picture of Times Squares, and there's no elephants in the picture. You cannot tell ChatGPT what not to do because it got Times Square and yep, there's elephants there. So do I think that that's something they can put a Band-Aid on? Yeah, absolutely. But right now that's another flaw, and we're going to find flaws for a long time because of the complexity. That's a reason I don't trust ChatGPT, but I think I would feel safe writing in a self-driving car over a certain domain because it's simple. Yeah. The AI is simple.
Okay, so
And
George.
the context is definable.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.